Have you ever stood at the edge of reality, wondering what lies beyond? What if I told you that crossing this boundary, crossing this line could change everything you know forever? But not necessarily for the better. Honestly, psychedelics are no walk in the park. It might be a journey that promises enlightenment and awakening, but leads to battles with unseen shadows within our own mind. Psychedelics can open doors to other dimensions, but I'm not sure if everybody is ready to open these doors and get these glimpses into these other realms. In this video, we're gonna be tackling the dark side of psychedelics, the risks, the real dangers, and the reasons why they might not be the path to enlightenment for everybody. Welcome to a video, to journey unlike any other that we've done so far. Well, we've talked about the dangers a little bit, but one that takes us through the hidden risks and way too little discussed dangers of psychedelics. While many, and I think I might include myself in there, chase the allure of enlightenment and transcendent experiences with psychedelics, today we're gonna be taking a little pause and reflect. Are we really ready for what lies beyond this boundary? From the unspoken psychological impacts to the physical risks, we're gonna be diving deep into why psychedelics might not be for everyone. Whether you're seeking personal growth, healing, or you're just curious, understanding these 5 critical considerations could change the way you want to approach your future psychedelic journeys. So, let's explore this knowledge together so you can make a more informed decision, a more mature and responsible decision towards if you want to jump into these deeper territories of the psychedelic realms, or maybe pause it for a little while. A little bit about my background. Hey, I'm Vero. I am the founder of Psychedelic Actualization, Psychedelic Integration Coach. And my background with psychedelics has started around, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago maybe. I started journeying alone and I just explored these realms carefully. I went a little bit deeper each time. And over the years I got just like so overwhelmingly passionate about this topic, and I dedicated my whole life kind of to the study of these realms and to also dive a little bit deeper for myself and connect in the community. And I'll have to say, the deeper I go on my own psychedelic path, the more I get humbled. The more I recognize the intensity and the immensity of the range of possible experiences, and also of the dangers, of the very real dangers and risks and considerations that come up on this path. So this is why I feel responsible to kind of talk about this, because I feel like there is a lot of hype about these beautiful molecules and substances and medicines. And I'm infinitely grateful for all the experiences I've had. But also I feel a little bit responsible now that I've lurked into the little bit of the darker realms and went deeper on my journey to just share the dangers and the things I've discovered for myself. Even with like, this video is not just for beginners and like saying if everybody is ready for psychedelics, but also for experienced psychonauts. There lies realms beyond what we might be able to handle. And these are just some considerations I've observed on my journey of psychedelic actualization. First, you're not ready to change your perspective on reality. You resist change and you're not ready to take on more responsibility. This is the first point, and this goes deeper than you might imagine. I think coming from whatever background you're coming, if it's a materialistic view of the world or certain philosophical traditions of nihilism, existentialism, whatever there is, psychedelics have inherently in them the potential to break this paradigm and to just reveal parts of reality that are not fitting into your current paradigm of reality. And if you're not ready to change your perspective on things and of reality itself, and you resist this change of perspective, then you might have a very difficult time in some psychedelic experiences. There's obviously also the immense potential for breaking that paradigm and to crack your mind open. And then there might be a possible beautiful change that is emerging out of this. But also there's the very real danger and consideration that if you're not ready to break this paradigm apart and you're not ready for this change, then you might have a difficult time afterwards. And also, psychedelic work requires an open mind, a willingness to kind of let go of everything you thought to be true, and a welcoming of change, of the inevitable consequences, of the wisdom gained directly related to the amount of responsibility we take for everything. And this goes deeper than you might imagine, because I have considered myself like even going into psychedelic experiences with these spiritual frameworks from some spiritual traditions, from Hinduism to Buddhism to shamanism to whatever concepts and models there might be. And we might think like, okay, now I've got an understanding, now I've got a clue and a grip of what's going on. And every time I go deeper, it breaks apart. It breaks everything I've thought to be true and every spiritual concept I've thought to have integrated. It breaks it apart, and I inevitably have to let go of everything I thought to be true over and over and over again. And then also the part of the responsibility is a big one. Taking responsibility for everything, because the further I expand my consciousness and I kind of tap into also this unitive field of everything, there is an increasing amount of responsibility that comes from this direct experience of God, where I do have the sense that I take on responsibility even for collective mechanisms that are playing out, collective suffering that is going to be worked through my vessel, through my own psychedelic experiences, and maybe through yours. And this is a responsibility that not everybody might be ready to take on, and that is also totally fine. But it goes very far into an ultimate sense of responsibility for everything that is happening, and everything that has ever happened, and everything that will ever happen. And that is a humongous amount of responsibility. So that is the first point of a real consideration of why you might want to avoid psychedelic journeys and be careful in your further explorations of them. And you might be like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready to take on that responsibility, and also I am open-mindedness itself. I'm ready to change my mind and to let go of everything I thought to be true. Then let's move on to the second point, which is there are very real dangers associated with deep psychedelic work that are not talked about enough. I think everybody is kind of aware of them, but there is a pushback against these dangers because they've been pushed through the criminalization of psychedelics in the past so much that now there's a pushback against these dangers, and there's an overemphasis on the healing aspects of these substances, which is fine to kind of balance it out. But also nowadays I think it's good to talk more about the very real dangers and the experiences people are having, because these experiences can lead to psychotic breaks, anxiety spirals, panic attacks, and potentially paranoid and psychotic states. Not just in the experience itself. I mean, in the experience, in very high doses, it is a very real possibility. And kind of the further you go on your path, the more you increase the potentiality of encountering one of those states. And again, it's not just all black and white. There might be value in exploring these states as well. But it can lead to a very intense experience, which might not be right for everybody in this current situation of their life. Because these spirals and these really what we might call bad trips or just challenging and dark experiences might be a little bit traumatic as well. It might be a traumatic experience which can lead to a subtle form of PTSD, ranging from very mild to extreme. And also the physical dangers are not talked about enough. With these substances in these high states, there just can be an unexpected range of possible physical reactions, ranging from unconsciousness to seizures to just potentially life-threatening situations that we're not aware of. Which is just good to be aware of, that these possibilities are there, to put safety measures in place, that we do feel safe and we might have somebody there who knows about holding space and observing these reactions and then calculating the risk. And some synthetic compounds in particular have many side effects also that are unknown to this day and age. It's very under-researched. We're in the beginning phases of psychedelic research, and some experiences are just not fully understood. For example, myself, I got tinnitus from an MDMA and 5-MeO-DMT experience. I think it was more on the 5-MeO-DMT state, and it spiraled me into a spiritual crisis. So this is something that it is a common phenomenon. There's many people experiencing physical side effects also from psychedelics, and obviously psychological side effects and traumatic experiences. But it is just something good to be aware of, and circling back to the responsibility as well, being ready to take the responsibility for the consequences of your actions is a good one. So just being aware also of prolonged negative effects in like deep psychedelic work. Some explorers and pioneers have reported back physical effects such as chronic pain, headaches, hearing hypersensitivity, what I told you, and sleep disturbances and insomnia are just some of the possible consequences of heavy and deep psychedelic use. Not necessarily, again, it might not happen for everyone. It might even just happen for a very few number of people, but don't think that you're excluded from these very real consequences and dangers. It is just a consideration to take into place when you consider if psychedelics and this deep psychedelic path even is right for you, or if you want to maybe take a step back and take it very slowly and carefully. Third reason, you're not grounded enough to lose your ground of reality. I know some of you are youngsters out there. If you don't have your life in order, and if you have not developed a strong foundation for your life, then these experiences can lead to an acceleration of wild ideas and a diminished connection with reality. And this might lead to a few just practical problems. So if you haven't developed a career, if you haven't developed your mind also and your view on reality, then these substances and these deep experiences open you up to other wild ideas and belief systems. And again, it's not black and white. It might benefit you as it has benefited me. I started using psychedelics when I was very young, when I was 16, and it changed my life as I could perceive it for the better. But I see it over and over again in these communities and in these circles that heavy psychedelic use might lead to just a lack of concern to build this strong foundation, to skip the survival needs of this Maslow's hierarchy of needs and just jump to the self-transcendence immediately. There might be a way where it could work out and where that might be the most beneficial path for you. But it is just something to consider, which I just want to share this deep concern of mine of like, these consequences may lead to an inability to live in harmony with our culture. And they may lead to isolation and difficulties to take care of basic survival needs. And if you're ready to take this responsibility, then go ahead. But otherwise, it might be a consideration to build a solid ground for yourself and then proceed carefully so that you have a strong foundation. And from this strong foundation, you're grounded enough to lose your ground of reality and come back to a place of a little bit of a safety net. So if you don't have this ground of reality and you're not grounded enough, then the deep psychedelic path might be something you want to reconsider or just approach very carefully. Fourth point, you lack the knowledge to avoid certain pitfalls that you might face during integration. The word integration is such a beautiful one. It has just been established recently. It is a very fresh and new word in the psychedelic scene. By the way, one thing I found for integration which works wonders and is beautiful is psychedelic integration coaching. And I've discovered coaching for myself. So if you need help with psychedelic integration and you want to see if you can actually avoid these pitfalls and then also integrate your experiences into real world transformation, you can book a free one-on-one conversation with me and we can have a chat about if coaching might be something you are interested in. But yeah, just being aware, lacking the knowledge of the pitfalls might be a trap that you could fall into, which you might want to avoid before you go deeper on this psychedelic path. One such thing is what is called, for example, an ego backlash. That's a term I think it's just useful to be aware of. That the fear might arise from the disorientation caused by transitioning back from these higher states of consciousness or different expanded boundary dissolution states of consciousness into a restricted consciousness again and return to your sense of self. And your ego mechanisms are putting back into place and falling back into all our old ways that we thought we were past on what these experiences were showing us. It can bring about a sense of failure when we're experiencing this ego backlash. Our ego mind comes back stronger as ever before, and we thought we have transcended it through our realizations in our psychedelic states. That might lead to heavy feelings of failure, and it might be just a trap or just a phenomena to be aware of, to integrate and to navigate the integration a little bit more skillfully. So having an overview on what these things are and what to do with them, how to deal with them, might be a helpful thing before you consider going even deeper into psychedelic use. Because I feel for myself, the deeper I go, the more I am aware of these phenomena happening. And the more I'm aware of these phenomena happening by raising my awareness above them and also learning about them and studying psychology, studying Carl Jung and how other people have navigated them, I am able to better navigate these experiences. Another one is ego inflation. That is a very common one of like psychedelics have the potential to amplify the ego, making you feel special or enlightened or better than anybody else. We have these extreme cases of people thinking that they're Jesus, not recognizing that the essence of Jesus is in every single one of us. And this sense of ego inflation and kind of thinking you're better than anybody else through your psychedelic use is another trap and another danger to be aware of. So this kind of inflationary egoism can create a false sense of this superiority, leading to a distorted perception of reality and of yourself, which is not serving anyone, which is actually also not truly aligned with the teachings of selflessness in the spiritual traditions, in the religions, in the realizations of what the psychedelics are actually showing us. So a lack of knowledge about these certain pitfalls, and there are many more, might be a thing you want to consider. And then the fifth reaction, the fifth reason why you might want to avoid your psychedelic use or just be aware of this thing is you are attached to experiences. It's one of the biggest things for myself. I feel I am attached to appearances, clinging to control your present experience of life. And I always thought in my own personal psychedelic journeys that I am somebody who is able to surrender. I have mastered the skill of letting go. I'm not holding on to my appearances. I'm not holding on to my stable state of consciousness But the deeper I go on my journey, the more purification happens, the more I go into these transpersonal states as well. I am realizing a deep attachment to appearances and also a deep sense of bias for like preferring certain states of consciousness over other states of consciousness. And the deeper we go on our journey, it can throw us in for a loop of like, hey, are you really detached from appearances itself? Are you really ready for what consciousness can do? Because it is infinite. And yeah, it's like you want to get to an end goal. From what I've seen, I can say it is infinite. It sounds scary. And then it might be a good reason to not indulge in psychedelic work a little bit further, or not even at all. If you're not ready to let go of your control of perception and of awareness and of this field of conscious appearances that are appearing in your field of awareness, then that might be something to consider. Or it might also be the thing that would benefit all of us the most, because psychedelics are kind of this training ground for all these things that I've mentioned. All these things are not there to... They might be reasons for you to consider avoiding psychedelics or consider stepping back for a while unless you have looked at them a little bit further. But also actually all of these things are beautiful things to consider, I guess. To open your mind, to be ready to change your perspective on reality, to really dive deep into the real risks and explore deeper and distorted realms of your mind and these shadow experiences, to lose your ground of reality, to have it pull out the rug under your feet and just fall into infinite space, to fall into the pitfalls and to explore them and to understand them deeply, and then also to just deeply look into our attachment to experiences. All of this is the work with psychedelics that we can do, and we might even benefit from the psychedelic work to indulge in all of these experiences. So that was it. That was the 5 reasons why you might want to not take psychedelics or take a step back from your psychedelic work. And those are just some of the few reasons. There are many more that I've encountered in my personal path of psychedelic actualization. Write me in the comments which one resonated most with you, and if you're ready to dive deeper into this work. I'm questioning my path over and over again, and be ready to be humbled on this path and never expect that you know what will happen in these deep states of consciousness, because it is truly always a surprise, and it is always an astonishment, and there's always more learning that could happen. And from what I've observed from other brave and courageous explorers it is infinite, and that is a beautifully scary thing to accept and to just recognize and appreciate. So that's about it. As I said, if you're interested in the integration coaching, give me a call, book your call. Also, we're going to be starting a school community. YouTube is, I don't know, a little bit weird with the psychedelic content at the moment. Some channels are going to be deleted. So definitely make sure you follow me on Instagram. You sign up for the newsletter so we are just connected. Thank you very much. Much love to every single one of you. Safe travels, everybody. And see you in the next one. Namaste.